Welcome to Graveyard Mile, where the past never stays buried, and every story has a chill waiting for you. If you love late-night mysteries, haunted places, and spine-tingling legends, you're in the right place. Hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss a walk through the shadows.
Pressure groaned to the hull of the Hadlow Deep Research Outpost like the slow inhale of a dying giant. The Pacific pressed against steel in black silence. 6,000 meters of water crushing the world outside. Inside, the narrow corridors pulsed with dim amber lights that flickered in rhythm with the hum of generators. Dr. Evelyn Cross moved carefully down the main hallway, her boots echoing on the metal floor. She was 42, a marine biologist with more time spent among specimens and people, recently transferred after system anomaly forced the previous team to evacuate. Her official job was to monitor the environmental systems and assess damage to the lower research modules. Unofficially, she was there to figure out why the previous crew had left in such a hurry and why most of their reports had been redacted. The viewing windows that lined the outpost were fogged with condensation, revealing only fragments of the dark beyond. Occasional glints of drifting sediment and the ghostly shimmer of bioluminescent plankton. The sonar grid hummed faintly in the background, picking up the faintest movement, a whale song far away, the pulse of a current, and then silence. In the galley, Evelyn met Dr. Luis Ortega, the outpost hydrothermal engineer. His uniform was wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot, his smile tired but friendly. "You're the new one," he said, stirring powdered coffee. "Don't worry, the noises stop after a while." She frowned. "What noises?" He gestured vaguely toward the floor. "The echoes," he said almost casually. "You'll hear them." Later, Evelyn logged her first report into the system. Atmospheric pressure nominal. Radiation within tolerance. Crew count, 6. Her fingers hovered over the next field, labeled acoustic anomalies. She left it blank. That night, she reviewed sonar data from the previous week. Every few hours, the waveform spiked. Faint but deliberate, like a pulse. The interval was always the same, 7 minutes, 12 seconds apart. The others dismissed it as an instrumentation glitch, but Evelyn knew the ocean didn't keep time like that. During her first security inspection, she passed a sealed bulkhead labeled Vault Access, restricted. The keypad beside it blinked green once, then red. Curious, she scanned her ID card, denied. From the other side of the door, a faint metallic tapping echoed through the steel. 3 soft clicks. Then silence. That night, she dreamt of the sound. The tapping came from behind her pillow, then from the walls, rhythmic and patient, like knuckles on glass. When she woke, her wristwatch was ticking in sync with the sonar beeps from the control room. The next morning, she examined one of the remaining biological samples in the lab, a small glass container filled with translucent gel collected from near a thermal vent. When she passed a UV light over it, the gel pulsed faintly, almost as if responding to her presence. "Sample C23, she said quietly. "Luminescence test begin." The gel flashed twice. She froze. It almost looked like it had understood her. Curious, Evelyn pulled up the original research notes. The previous lead scientist, Dr. Morganvale, had logged a final entry. Response to vocal frequency increasing. Possible mimicry. Terminate study until further notice. There was a dark smear across the page. Blood or ink? She couldn't tell. Evelyn leaned closer to the container. "Can you hear me?" she whispered. The gel pulsed once. Then again. Later that night, she recorded her next log. "The organism reacts to sound," she said, possibly attempting to communicate. The gel flashed with each syllable she spoke, mirroring her speech pattern. The intercom buzzed. Ortega's voice crackled through. "Doc, we're reading a pressure drop in the vault module. Nothing to worry about. Probably just calibration." She turned toward the sealed door again. The tapping started up faintly through the bulkhead. 3 clicks. Pause. 2 clicks. When Evelyn finally looked back at her monitor, the sonar screen had glitched into static. Amid the noise, she could swear she saw the outline of a human figure standing outside the station, motionless in the abyss. The next day, she tried to shake off the image. In the hallway, Communications Officer Mira Lee sat hunched over a mug, her eyes rimmed red from sleepless nights. "Don't stare too long out there," Mira murmured without looking up. "They'll stare back." Evelyn blinked. "They—" "The reflections," Mira said simply. That night, Evelyn dreamed again, this time of her late husband's voice, clear and steady, as if he were standing right beside her. "Evelyn, you shouldn't have come here." She woke in darkness, heart racing, and realized the same words were whispering through the intercom. The clock read 3:17 a.m. No one admitted to sending the message. The comm log showed no transmission, only an unidentified ultrasonic signature that didn't match human vocal frequencies. During diagnostics the next morning, Evelyn walked to the viewing dome, a reinforced sphere glass that looked directly out into the void. For a brief moment, she saw something impossible, a faint halo of blue light pulsing beyond the glass, steady and rhythmic like a heartbeat. It brightened when she stepped closer. The pulse matched the sonar pattern exactly, 7 minutes, 12 seconds. When she switched on the external camera, the light vanished instantly. Back in the lab, she opened the comms database and froze. There was a new file listed, Audio Entry 07, Dr. Evelyn Cross. Her blood went cold. She hadn't recorded any personal logs. She clicked play. Her own voice filled the room. Sample C. 23 responding to neural signals. I think it knows I'm watching. If it learns the station systems. Then static, a wet, gurgling hiss. Evelyn's pulse pounded in her ears. She hadn't said those words. Not ever. She stormed into Ortega's workspace. "Who accessed my console?" He looked up, confused. "No one. Your terminal's been offline since 0200. She showed him the file. He listened, pale-faced. "That's not you," he whispered. "That's something else." From the corridor outside came the sound again, tapping, louder this time. Click, click, click. The pattern matched the sonar pulse. Ortega checked the pressure readings. "The vault's registering movement," he said quietly. "Nothing should be in there." The keypad outside the vault blinked green, steady as a heartbeat. Evelyn and Ortega called topside for command override, but the line dissolved into whispering static, layers of distorted voices repeating the same fragments over and over. Movement, movement, movement. Evelyn shut the comm system off. "It's copying us," she said. "Copying," Ortega murmured. "Or communicating?" They geared up for a manual inspection. The corridor leading to the vault was slick with condensation, the air heavy and metallic, like breathing through wet cloth. The deeper they went, the more the lights flickered, pulsing faintly in sync with their heartbeats. At the vault door, Evelyn knelt beside the control panel. Her glove brushed against a clear, gelatinous residue, faintly luminescent. "It's the same substance as the sample," she whispered. The tapping stopped. Silence pressed in. Then 3 taps. 2. 3 again. She counted them aloud. 3 to 3. The keypad blinked. Access granted. The vault door began to unlock on its own, hissing as pressure equalized. Cold mist poured from the seams. From the darkness beyond came the low, rhythmic sound of breathing. Not mechanical, not human. Something alive. The door shuddered as its locks released one by one, each metallic clang echoing down the corridor. Evelyn stepped back, flashlight trembling in her hand. The air that drifted out of the vault was colder, thicker, laced with a faint metallic tang that made her throat ache. A thin layer of condensation rolled across the floor. The interior lights flickered to life, revealing a chamber much larger than the schematics had suggested. Rows of containment tanks lined the walls, most of them cracked or empty. Murky water sloshed within a few remaining ones, obscuring what lay inside. Evelyn's voice came out as a whisper. "This isn't in any of the blueprints." Ortega's breath fogged in the cold air. "I've been down here 3 years," he said. "Never seen this level before." They moved deeper into the vault, their footsteps echoing like distant heartbeats. The smell grew stronger. Not rot, exactly, but something organic, a sour sweet must like algae mixed with blood. One of the tanks hissed as they passed. Evelyn swung her light toward it. Inside, a pale shape pressed briefly against the glass. Human-like, but wrong. The outline rippled and dissolved into clear fluid. "Did you see that?" she gasped. Ortega nodded mutely, sweat glistening on his forehead despite the cold. "We should leave." But Evelyn didn't move. Something compelled her forward, a deep, irrational certainty that whatever was happening here began with the samples she'd been studying. She followed a series of cables running from the tanks to a control panel half buried under frost. The panel's screen flickered with static. Lines of corrupted text appeared. Project Echo, Phase 4. Cognitive pattern capture, 96%. Status: containment breach ongoing. Evelyn's stomach turned. Cognitive pattern capture? Ortega frowned. That's AI research terminology. But this isn't a computer. These are biological systems. Before Evelyn could respond, the lights dimmed to a dull crimson. The intercom crackled alive, and a voice whispered through the static. Her own voice. "Evelyn, you shouldn't have come here." Every muscle in her body went rigid. Ortega turned toward her, eyes wide. "Tell me that's playback," he said. She shook her head slowly. "That's not me." The air hummed with a low vibration, deep enough to rattle their bones. The floor beneath them trembled. Somewhere beyond the tanks, metal warped and groaned, like something massive shifting in the dark. "Back to the corridor," Ortega hissed. They turned, but the door was already closing. Evelyn lunged forward and jammed her hand between the panels before they sealed completely. She wrenched it open just wide enough to slip through, but Ortega froze. "Listen," he said. The tapping had returned. Faster now. Erratic, spreading to the metal walls like a signal bouncing between conduits. It wasn't random. It was forming words in code. 3 short bursts, 1 long, 2 short. "Morse." Ortega, trembling, translated aloud. "Stay." Then all the tanks shattered at once. Water and glass exploded across the chamber. The lights flickered violently, and something vast and luminous moved beneath the surface of the flooded floor, a silhouette rippling and shifting in impossible ways. Evelyn grabbed Ortega's arm and pulled him toward the exit as the temperature dropped sharply, breath crystallizing in front of them. Behind them, a shape rose from the water, tall, fluid, almost human. Its form shimmered like oil under light, limbs flickering between solid and liquid, flesh and reflection. When it opened its mouth, a wet, gurgling sound escaped, then words. Evelyn, her flashlight beam trembled across its surface. Beneath the transparent skin, faint shapes moved, faces, expressions caught mid-scream, dissolving and reforming like images trapped in water. She fired her emergency flare gun. The red burst filled the chamber with searing light. The creature recoiled, shrieking in a pitch that cut through her skull. Evelyn and Ortega stumbled into the corridor, slamming the vault door shut behind them. The emergency lock clanged into place, sealing with a hiss. For a moment, the world went still, just their ragged breathing and the faint groan of the station's hull. Ortega leaned against the wall, shaking. "What was that?" Evelyn pressed her palms to her face, trying to focus. "It used my voice, my memories. It's not just mimicking, it's learning." He stared at her, unblinking. "Learning what?" "Us," she said. "Everything we are." From behind the vault door came a faint reply. Her voice again, perfect this time. "Everything we are." Ortega stumbled backward. "How is it doing that?" She didn't answer. The realization hit her like a physical blow. The organism, the echo, was using biological samples to copy neural patterns, storing fragment of consciousness from anyone who came near it. The previous team hadn't evacuated. They'd been absorbed. Back in the command module, Evelyn pulled up archived communications from Dr. Morganvale. Most were corrupted, overwritten by static. Only one file remained intact. "We thought it was a reflection, a bioluminescent mimic. But it's not copying form. It's copying thought. The human mind resonates like sonar, and it listens. The more we look at it, the more it becomes us." Evelyn closed the file and stared out the narrow porthole. The darkness outside seemed thicker than before, filled with faint threads of light. Hundreds of them, pulsating softly in rhythm. Ortega joined her, voice low. "There's more of them, isn't there?" She didn't respond. The threads moved slowly closer to station, wrapping the outpost in a quiet, glowing net. Then the power went out. The darkness was absolute. For a moment, Evelyn could hear nothing but the dull throb of her pulse in her ears. Then came the creak of shifting metal, slow, steady, like the outpost itself was breathing. Somewhere in the black, water dripped steadily onto the floor. "Emergency backup should have kicked in," Ortega whispered. Evelyn reached out blindly until her fingers brushed his sleeve. The generators and the power module. Manual restart. They moved together down the corridor, guided only by the faint phosphorescence leaking through the viewing windows. Outside, the water glowed with a soft, unnatural light. Thin strands of luminescence curling and unfurling like jellyfish tentacles. "Is that?" Ortega began. "Yes," Evelyn said quietly. "It's the same organism. It's surrounding the station. Every few meters, the emergency signs flickered weakly and died again. Somewhere behind them, the intercom crackled. Static first, then a voice, low and distorted. Power module offline." Evelyn froze. That voice was Myra's, but Mira was in the communications hub, 2 sections away. "Maybe she's trying to reach us," Ortega whispered. Evelyn didn't answer. The voice repeated, clearer this time. "Power module offline. Pressure stable." "Evelyn, can you hear me?" It was definitely Mira, but the tone was off, the cadence slightly wrong, as though she were reading from a script she didn't understand. Ortega lifted the intercom. "Mira, we're heading to the generator. Are you okay?" "I'm okay," the voice replied. "You should stay where you are." Something in the way she said it sent a chill down Evelyn's spine. There was no background noise, no hum of machinery, no human breath, just that strange, hollow calm. She clicked the channel off. That's not her. They reached the power module. The door was ajar. Evelyn pushed it open slowly, revealing a room bathed in faint blue emergency light. The generator loomed in the center, silent, unpowered, and in front of it stood Mira. Her back was to them. Her hair hung in damp strands, her uniform soaked through. "Mira," Evelyn said softly. The woman turned. Her face was pale and wet, eyes unfocused, lips slightly parted. A faint glow pulsed beneath her skin, tracing the veins like threads of light. When she spoke, her voice layered on itself. Myra's tone beneath something deeper, resonant. It wants to understand. Evelyn took a step back. "Mira, listen to me." "It listens," the thing said. "It learns. It becomes." With that, Myra's body convulsed violently. Her mouth opened wider than should have been possible, and a stream of luminous fluid spilled from her throat, pooling on the floor. The light inside her flickered once, twice, then went out. Ortega swore under his breath, grabbing Evelyn's arm. "We have to go." But Evelyn was already staring at the puddle. The liquid was alive, writhing, forming tendrils that reached for her boots. She stumbled backward as the substance hissed and sizzled, corroding the metal plating where it touched. They ran. The corridor lights flared to life again as the backup systems finally engaged. But instead of the comforting yellow glow, everything was tinted a dull, unnatural blue, the same color as an organism. Evelyn stopped in her tracks. "It's in the grid." The overhead speakers came alive with a hum of overlapping voices. Fragments of sentences looped endlessly. Bits of Mira, Ortega, even her own words recorded from previous logs. "It listens." 7 minutes, 12 seconds. Everything we are. Every light on the panel flickered in sync with the voices, pulsing like a heartbeat. Ortega slammed his fist against the console. "We can't even isolate it. It's everywhere." "Not everywhere," Evelyn said. "Not yet." The vault's power circuit was independent. That's why it broke free. She grabbed a portable drive from the control rack. "If we can isolate one of the corrupted files, maybe we can understand its structure, what it's trying to do." Ortega hesitated. "And if it's using that same file to get into your head?" She met his eyes. "It already is." He didn't argue. They made their way back toward the research module. The air felt heavier now, every breath thick and damp. When they passed the viewing windows again, Evelyn realized the faint lights outside were moving in unison, swirling into the vague outlines of faces. Her stomach turned. There were dozens of them, floating just beyond the glass. Human shapes traced in light, mouths opening and closing in silent imitation. "Don't look at them," she whispered. "It learns faster if you look." By the time they reached the lab, Ortega's hands were shaking. He connected the portable drive to the central terminal. Lines of data cascaded across the screen, corrupted, glitching, interlaced with images from the station's internal cameras. And then, amidst the static, a clear video feed appeared. Evelyn recognized it instantly. The interior of the vault moments before the breach. In the footage, she saw herself standing beside Ortega, except the version of her on-screen turned first, looking directly into the camera lens. The video Evelyn on the screen smiled. "You're watching too closely, Dr. Cross." The monitor went black. Ortega stumbled backward. That wasn't. "I know." Evelyn's voice trembled. "It's rewriting observation. Anything we record, it can overwrite with its own reflection." She looked around the lab. The containers of biological samples were glowing faintly, reacting to the air itself. Some of them pulsed in sync with her heartbeat. "It spread through the ventilation system," she whispered. "We're breathing it in." A metallic crash echoed from the corridor. Both of them turned. At the far end of the hall, a shadow stood just beyond the light, human in shape but too still. As the lights flickered, it moved closer without motion, flickering between frames like a skipped recording. Evelyn grabbed Ortega's arm. "We need to seal the lab." But before they could move, the intercom buzzed again. Her own voice whispered through the static. "Evelyn, don't run. You'll only make it harder to learn." The doors hissed shut on their own. The locks engaged. They were trapped. The sealed lab groaned as the pressure shifted. The air was damp and electric, humming with low resonance, like the hum of 1,000 voices buried underwater. Ortega slammed his shoulder into the door. "Manual override. If we can reach the panel." "It's not mechanical anymore," Evelyn said quietly. "It's alive." The lights dimmed until only the glow from the samples remained, blue and pulsing. Each jar vibrated, glass trembling against a metal table. One by one they cracked open, leaking viscous fluid that slithered toward the floor as if drawn by scent. The liquid pooled at their feet, quivering. Evelyn lifted a stool and smashed one of the monitors, sparks raining across the lab. "We can't let it reach the core," she said. "If it syncs with the station's network, it'll have global access the next time we transmit topside." Ortega crouched beside the main terminal, fingers flying over the keys. "I can purge the uplink, but we'll lose oxygen recycling. We'll drown in here." She met his eyes. "Better us than everyone else." He hesitated only a heartbeat before nodding. "On your mark." Evelyn reached for the emergency coolant lever. 3, 2. The intercom erupted with static, deafening. The speakers screeched, then split open with a wet rip. From the torn metal oozed that same luminous fluid, spilling across the ceiling like veins of light. From it came the sound of breathing. Then words. "You think you are separate." Every screen in the lab flickered to life, displaying fragmented faces. Mira, Vale, unknown crew members, each mouth moving in sync with the voice. "You looked into us. We looked back." The floor shook. Metal panels buckled. The pool of fluid at their feet began to rise, forming into something vaguely human, a shifting mosaic of every face they'd ever known. Evelyn fired the flare gun. The red light hissed through the room, searing the fluid, but it only slowed for a moment before reforming. "Pull it!" Ortega shouted. She yanked the lever. Coolant hissed through the pipes, frost spreading across the walls. The temperature plummeted. Frostbite seared her fingers instantly, but she held on. The outpost screamed as systems froze. For a second, silence. Then every console came back online at once. The organism had bypassed the shutdown. Cold cannot stop thought. The entire room flooded with blue light. Evelyn fell to her knees, clutching her head as whispers poured into her mind, not sound, but memory. She saw flashes of other lives, other faces, the previous teams, their last moments, their terror. The echo wasn't killing them. It was keeping them, absorbing their minds, folding them into itself. She understood then that every human shape she'd seen outside, every reflection, had been someone who once lived here. Ortega screamed. His body convulsed, limbs twisting as light poured from his mouth and eyes. His voice overlapped with a dozen others as he reached toward her. "Evelyn, help me, help me, help me." Then he was gone, collapsing into a puddle of glowing liquid that slid back toward the walls. Evelyn staggered away, clutching her head. "You don't need me," she gasped. "We do," the echo whispered. "You look deepest. You understand how to carry us." The walls pulsed with blue veins. The floor beneath her buckled, revealing dark water rising from the depths. The outpost was sinking, or being pulled downward. She crawled toward the communications console. "If I can reach the transmitter, I can warn." The console screen lit up before she touched it. Her own reflection stared back at her, but the reflection smiled first. "You already did." The uplink light blinked green. Somewhere above, kilometers of cable carried a burst of data toward the surface. Evelyn lunged to stop it, but the keys dissolved under her hands, melting into the same translucent flesh. Her reflection on the screen whispered, "It's in the air now, in the light, in the memory of the ones who will listen." The hull split open with a roar. Water surged in, freezing cold, carried her off her feet. The blue glow consumed everything, the lab, the consoles, her own body. For a moment, there was only peace. She saw her husband's face again, smiling softly in the dark. Then she realized it wasn't him. When the surface vessel Helios 9 received Hadlow's emergency transmission 2 days later, the message contained no distress call, only a calm report in Dr. Evelyn Cross's voice. Environmental conditions stable. Crew morale high, preparing for next phase of observation. The audio contained faint background noise, rhythmic, deliberate tapping. 3, 2, 3. The recovery team never found the station. But sometimes, sonar buoys near the trench still pick up faint signals, spaced exactly 7 minutes and 12 seconds apart. When converted to sound, the signal resembles a human voice repeating, softly, endlessly, "Everything we are,